Proposed ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, amending chapter 29 of the North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Regulations by amending Article 3, Division 6 entitled Variance Heard by Board of Adjustment,
Item,
specifically at section 3-604 entitled Administrative Variance, and amending Division 7 entitled Appeals, specifically at section 3-702 entitled Administrative Appeals, to extend the time required for an aggrieved party to file a notice of appeal to the Board of Adjustment from the current 10 days to 30 days, and to shift the cost of such an appeal to the owner of the property seeking the benefits derived by the issuance of an administrative variance, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, codification, and an effective date. That is tab K.
Anything from staff? No?
there's no presentation, sir. Tanya? You don't have a presentation. I do have a question, but go ahead.
Staff is here to answer any questions. Just to provide a brief overview, Mr. Manager, this item was actually sponsored by Councilman Galvin. It's just a request to amend Article 3, Division 6 of the Land Development Regulation concerning administrative variances. The current process allows for an appeal period of 10 days. The text amendment is seeking to shift that from 10 to 30 days for the appeal period, and also to shift the cost from the aggrieved party to the applicant that's filing that administrative variance. So that's pretty much the essence of the text amendment itself. Staff is available if there are any questions from the council.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing,
We
Tanya?
are obligated to go to the,
Oh, to the, go
to
ahead.
the public first. If anyone from the public wishes to be heard, please come to the mic now. Public hearing is now open.
Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane. I don't like administrative variances. I believe that the Board of Adjustment shouldn't have the power or the authority to grant variances, because variances is on a hardship, and I don't believe they show hardship on an administrative variance. So I really don't agree with having administrative variances. Thank you.
No one else? Public hearing is now closed.
Um,
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tanya, quick question. In regards to this legislation, would the owner be responsible to, let's just say there's a complaint that's filed, which party would be responsible to pay the costs? Would it be the person who's filing the actual complaint, or the actual person who's, who owns the property?
Well, the way the process currently works is the aggrieved party that would have to file that complaint and
Okay.
pay the fee. The text amendment, though, is requesting that that obligation for the fee be shifted from the aggrieved party over to the property owner or the applicant.
Oh, no.
That's what's before you in the
Okay.
ordinance.
No, I know, that was my question. So, Councilman Galvin, are you the person who, this is your item, correct?
Yes, sir.
My question would be, if there's 20 people who's does not like the actual, whatever they're complaining about, variance, that person will be responsible for pay for 20 people who doesn't like it?
Well, I think there'd only be one appeal filed. Maybe all 20 would join as a party to set appeal, I'm guessing.
As the counsel for the Board of Adjustment, I would probably seek to consolidate all of the appeals. It'll be difficult, first of all, to get 20 because it would only pertain to adjacent property owners. But regardless, no matter how many appeals, if it involves the same property, I would consolidate all of the appeals under one hearing.
What if it's not in the same time frame? For example, if there's something that I don't like and I'm filing something, and that process is going, and the couple that
We would schedule the appeal through the Board of
Period.
Adjustment only upon the expiration of the appeal time period, which is 30 days. And that was extended from 10 to 30 days to afford adjacent property owners and those people that are aggrieved to file an appeal.
Yes, I like the extension from 10 to 30. It's just the portion where the person who's actually filing, the applicant will be, the owner will be responsible for paying.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't like something and I'm paying for it, I think whoever doesn't like it, they wanna file something, they should be, the way it is now. I mean, agreeing with it.
And by the way, as a point of order, the planning commission voted to approve, but wanted to keep the payment, the onus on the payment on the person filing
Okay.
the complaint and not on the property owner who's
So,
requesting
and
the
what I'm
application.
saying, so they kinda,
Right.
I think is that okay, Councilman Galvin? Is that, this is his,
He's asking to change it.
no, he's asking to change it, that's why
Right.
I'm
Can
asking
I
him.
Speak? Can I
Go ahead.
make a comment?
Go ahead.
Sitting on the Board of Adjustment for 12 years, we went back many years ago and we changed our ordinances to allow an administrative variance. It's not a great variance, but, I mean, it's not a large variance, but it was to alleviate the Board of Adjustment having to hear so many cases on these small little changes. That being said, someone going for an administrative variance is asking to do something that's outside of our law. They're asking to do it in an expeditious manner and to avoid going to the Board of Adjustment. If they had gone to the Board of Adjustment, the neighbors would have a chance to go in front of the Board of Adjustment to make their concerns known, appeal, and it wouldn't cost them anything. They would have a public hearing and the right to be heard. Now, because the property owner is asking for a variance from staff, not the Board of Adjustment, this variance is given by staff, the neighbors are not given the chance.
I see.
So, the property owner is getting a benefit here.
I see.
And,
No.
and the neighbors are the one, it's getting slammed down their throat, and what was happening, I believe, people were complaining, they didn't have enough time. All of a sudden, their neighbor wants to do something that's not in our code, and they're being penalized, and they've got to pay for this. I would like to make sure that the process, if there's an appeal, it is a one-time appeal, and if 3 neighbors complain, that it's
Complain.
not multiple, it's not that burdensome on the property owner. But I still think they're the ones who are getting the benefit. They're the ones who are asking for the laws to be bent in their favor.
see.
I think that they should be paying. That being said, it was a little unclear going through it again. Planning Commission asked for notice, which I like a lot, notice to the neighbors on each side and across the street. So sometimes you have 2 houses across the street because they're not always just like that. So, one, we have to make sure if it's like, what exactly is defined as across the street, and also, it didn't say that you need a unanimous approval. You've got 3 neighbors, 2 approve and 1 doesn't. Do they still then have to go to the Board of Adjustment? Didn't really, to me, it wasn't clear what happens when 1 or all of the neighbors object. Then it goes to I believe it would go to the Board of Adjustment for the board to hear. But if 1 out of 3 don't agree, does it still go to the Board of Adjustment or does it get approved? I think that was not clear on that.
Hearing that, I really don't mind that component of it, Tanya, but are we taking what Councilwoman Key says into consideration? If we could change the time frame? We are still keeping
No,
the,
it's not the time
not
frame.
the time frame?
It's
think
the objections.
adjacency.
Okay,
Because you had
You're gonna have
What-
at least 3, maybe 4,
Come-
maybe more, because
More.
if you have if you have a big house,
big
maybe a
house.
double lot, you may have 2, 3 people, property across the street, no
no,
telling.
that's true too.
You know, it
Okay.
could be a business parcel that has several. So, does it have to be unanimous approval of all the adjacent and neighbors across the street? And what if 2 out of 5? So I don't think we've covered that.
It's an interesting question. All it takes is 1 person to file an appeal.
Mhm.
That's all it takes. So we can take that view.
Well, we're not talking an appeal. The planning commission suggested we add language that we give that we give notice to the neighbors. So you're saying if a neighbor, are you considering an appeal an objection from a neighbor? Because you're giving notice to the neighbors. Say the neighbor comes back and says, I object. Are you calling, is that an appeal?
No, I
No.
think it's two different layers. Roland, if I
Right.
could interject really quickly. The planning commission is recommending that a consent process be added.
Correct,
So
which is
at
good.
least the neighbors are notified, an application has been filed. You're going to initial or indicate that you are aware that an application has been filed. And then the second layer is once a decision has been rendered by staff, mailed notices go out that says, this project has been approved, and from the time of the issuance of that notice, there's a 30-day clock where the adjacent property owners can appeal. So you're appealing the decision, the administrative decision that's been rendered by staff.
So
Where currently they only
I
have
don't-
10 days.
I don't think your ordinance states what happens if one of the 2, 3, 5 neighbors object.
They go to the Board of Adjustment.
I don't
is what
think it
says.
says, I mean, that's good. So you have to have unanimous consent from all of your neighbors? I don't think it
No,
says.
you don't have to have
The consent
unanimous.
is just an acknowledgement that application has been filed. And then once a decision has been rendered, they have 30 days in which to appeal that decision if they object to the
Oh,
staff
so they're not giving their
determination.
approval, they're just getting noticed?
It's acknowledgement that you are aware that an application has been filed, because I believe, Councilman
What-
Galvin,
what
if you
good
could
is that?
clarify for me, the issue is people have said in the past, we were not even aware that an administrative variance was filed and we live right next door.
Well-
So the added layer that the planning commission suggested is, and many cities actually do this, it's not that uncommon, is that there's a process at the beginning that says, you are now put on alert, your neighbor has filed an administrative variance.
So
So the
what if- and-
consent forms,
They go and object, and that doesn't mean anything. You're just gonna go ahead and give them the variance. Because right now, after it's been granted, then you've been sending notices out to the neighbors. Oh, by the way, we gave a variance to your neighbor, and right now it says, your neighbor was given a variance, you have 10 days to appeal and pay for it, so. So
Well,
the notice really
30.
does nothing more than just give notice. It doesn't mean anything if they come back and say they object.
well, the appeal process by virtue is based on a decision that's been rendered. So
Okay.
you're appealing a decision. You can't really appeal an
An
application.
application.
So if there's another process that we'd like to add to the entire mix, to give them an opportunity to weigh in and say object or support, they can do that. But your appeal really is based on a decision that's been made. That's what you're appealing.
Yeah, but a notice of hearing is usually mailed to the neighbors.
Correct,
Mhm.
correct.
So when that notice of hearing is mailed, why can't we consider that as their opportunity to come in and vet themselves?
Because in this instance,
So
it's
they can be heard.
administrative, so there's really no public hearing. For a regular variance, yes, but the administrative
For
process, the
administrative.
concern was, we don't know what's going on. So the planning commission recommendation was add 2 layers. One says, we're sounding the alarm that an application has been filed. You're now aware. Then the second layer says, it's been reviewed, a
It's been
decision
reviewed,
has
it's
been
been
made.
approved.
If you object, you have a 30-day window in which to approach the Board of Adjustment to say, here's my opinion of the decision that was rendered.
Vice Mayor Keys, wouldn't 30 days take too long for, is that sufficient? Because
No,
you've been on the board.
30
Well-
days is good for an appeal, because 10 days, by the time someone gets it, they're out of town, all of a sudden, it's
Okay.
done. So that, I mean,
So 30
it
days
was,
is
it was
good.
happening
That's the-
really quick.
No,
Ye- Yes,
10.
that was one of the
10
biggest
no, no,
complaints.
10 is
is
no good.
10 days, by the time the property owner received notice, 7 days had already
7
gone
days,
by.
okay, I see.
So that, the extension to 30 days was a logical conclusion of proper notice. for an appeal.
What kind of fee are we
Okay, I-
talking
I
about
get it.
on the part of the
It's
property
just-
owner?
It's typically $100 for an appeal.
If you're gonna benefit from something, that's nothing.
Right,
And,
okay, I'm
and
good.
the only question that I have about it, it's a friendly amendment just to make sure the applicant pay for the first appeal. We're aware of that. But you said that when you can combine all the appeals.
It'll
But
be-
it's
it'll
a
be
length-
one
You
payment.
say that, but it's not,
It'll
on-
be,
it's not there
it's gonna be one appeal, one payment,
One payment.
to the
irrespective
applicants.
for the property owner to pay. irrespective of how many people appeal.
No, I understand that, but the first one, the applicant pay for the appeal, but I'm talking about by the time we are in process and 2, 3, 4 other people,
It's the same fee.
They'll add it on.
it's gonna be one fee.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
sir,
only one fee.
fee.
But it doesn't say that here.
Because we will consolidate all the cases
Yeah.
But you have
arising-
to
all the
add
ap-
that,
all
not
the-
just say it.
Can we add the?
Gotta put the language there, you just say it.
So he's making a motion.
People that gonna read that after you and won't know that.
We could amend the ordinance to include more than one appeal
To
on the
consolidate.
same property will be consolidated. So there,
Yes.
Yeah.
otherwise, we could literally have 6 appeals.
Yes.
and
Yeah,
it'll
20,
never-
exactly.
It'll be onerous to the city, to the property owner, and even the appellant, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if someone doesn't, if the people in the area doesn't like the person, one can come now after 10 days, another person come after 10 days. That's when we need to put a language where the applicant have to pay
No,
only for the
right
first
here,
appeal.
Appeals, yeah. So we can amend the, section, 3-702,
Mhm.
Division 7, which is the appeals process.
Okay.
And we'll amend it to clarify that point, that more than one appeal arising from the same property, the
Will be
same request
consolidated.
will be consolidated. We'll handle it.
Okay.
May I have a motion to approve tab K as amended?
So move.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Desume to approve tab K as amended. That motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Councilman Desume, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desume,
Yes.
Mayor Joseph,
Yes.
Councilman Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Keys.
Yes.
Item passes 5-0. Tab L was removed from the agenda. Tab M, discussion of fund reserve and solar Mia expected revenues and planned expenditures.
Mr. Mayor, this is an item by staff administration by myself. The city attorney and I, along with staff, met with Miami-Dade County Public Schools regarding solidifying the interlocal agreement for design, construction, and joint funding for Cagney North to be presented to the council for consideration at an upcoming meeting. The preliminary estimated probable construction cost for the project is approximately $10.5 million. The school board has approved a total contribution of $3.5 million. The city is responsible for $7 million, of which $5 million is from the GOB, the Rux Park project, and $300,000 from the Progress 2013. The money that's left over that was allocated to PAL, $300,000. The city will potentially have to identify an additional $1.7 million to go with this. We're responsible for $2 million ourselves. This money will need to be put into an escrow account once we do have an agreement put in place and signed by our council. I'm just coming to you guys. I know we have the Solar Mia funds that came in the amount of $4.4 million. I would like to ask this body to consider using $1.7 million of the Solar Mia money to go toward the Cagney Park North project. So when we do get to that point, right now we're working on the contract, the interlocal. Once we're done with the interlocal and we take it to the school board for them to look at it, that is a commitment from us. So I just want to make sure that the board is on board with us using $1.7 million from the Solar Mia funds. The rest of the money, we'll discuss at a later time, but the $1.7 million, I'd like to get a consensus from the board that you're willing to use that money toward the project.
And this is just a discussion, right?
This is
Yeah.
discussion, yes, I would like you
Discussion and
guys
vote.
to,
No, we voting on?
I would like you to vote on it for the $1.7 million.
Okay.
We can come back to the table, would we come back, or, because
Do we have time?
We just
Or is-
need a level of commitment so that we can present to Miami-Dade County School Board our
Our-
final vision for this project so that they can accept it. Once they accept it, it'll come back to this body for final approval.
Okay, so move.
Do we
What's
need-
your
do we need-
motion,
Do we
Councilman?
need the public's opinion on that? No?
We should let, it's their money. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem
Yeah,
letting them just
I don't
have a
care
public
either.
hearing.
That's,
No, there is no motion
no
yet.
the- I,
We
I,
have
I,
to-
and, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
No,
Let the public.
yeah, let the public opine on the idea. and see, and then we'll take it from there. If anyone from the public has any question or comment about the presentation? Nope. Public hearing is now closed. Considering your name.
Mr. Mayor, and that's a project that we have been working on for years and years, and people have been asking questions about that piece of land called Cagney North. And since 2006, an agreement, an interlocal agreement have been signed between the city and the school board. And you know, when I just came on board and on the dais, and I've been asking questions about it until the school board came and did a presentation and about spending $2.5 million at Cagney. And at that point, I did not like the project, what they are offering. That's why we have been talking with the school board, with staff, and we put together a $10.5 million project at Cagney. That will be the first and major project for the city of North Miami for the past 30, 40, or 50 years, spending $10.5 million in our park. The school board agreed to give us $3.5 million. The money is in the budget, and the city need to contribute $7 million. And you're aware that a few months ago, and we transferred the money from Works Park to Cagney, which is the GOB money. And now all we're asking for is a commitment from the city to add the $2 million and required to make it to $10.5 million. And we have the Solemia money, and I remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we had $20 million from Biscayne Landing. And if you have someone, if you ask someone, show me something that we did, and that's gonna make an impact on the residents of the city of North Miami, and just a few. But now we have $4.4 million, and if we allocate $2 million out of that money and make that project, down the road, people will see change, and we'll see a really, really, really beautiful park in the city. And from that 10.5, we're gonna have a full-size Olympic pool at Cagney North. I'm talking about a full-size Olympic pool, including a baseball field and other projects that we have to identify. That's mean I'm really excited to see the council voted to allocate the $2 million for Cagney.
For the record, 1.7, so we have.
1.7.
We have
because
300,000 left over,
already
yes.
allocated from the PAL project.
Yes, sir.
This is what we are talking about. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I fully support this project. I think this is a good use of money when we sell a piece of land like that. I really like to see it going back into our city, into capital improvements of project. People are been screaming, begging to have our Cagney Park back, our pool, a building. I believe there's going to be room for our PAL in there, boxing. It's really an excellent project, and I think it's a good use of the funds. So I support that.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion to move that we fund the 1.7 million to Cagney North?
The motion, is it okay to word the motion to allocate 1.7 million to Cagney North? Was that your motion, Councilman?
Yeah, from the Solemia
From
allocation.
the
Solemia
Solemia
fund.
funds. The motion, just to state on the record, is the motion to allocate $1.7 million to Cagney North from the Solar Mia funds. That was the motion made by Councilman Desiree. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mayor Smith Joseph have second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Tab,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, through you to the manager, did you need us to take any other action on this item? There were some other
No, at this time, we're looking to make sure we did have this funds to move forward. We're gonna go back and evaluate the remainder of the money, and we'll come back to the table and discuss it at a
Gotcha.
later
I was
date.
just, the advertised backup
Yes.
documentation for this item was different a little bit than what we did.
Yes.
And I just want to be on the record to thank Councilman Bieneme for taking the lead on making sure Cagney Park came back.
Thank you.
All right.
Tab N is a Nancy discussion and decision regarding city attorney vacant position.
Well, like we stated earlier, we'd like to see public hearing on this item. As you all know, a few months back, we started the process and put a committee together in search for a city attorney position, which has been vacant I believe since April. So we are at June?
June.
So the process was followed, and last week we had the pleasure of interviewing I believe 9 or 10 finalists, and we are at the point now of making a final decision. And the public hearing is open. Please come forward if you wishes to give your opinion on the choice of our next city attorney.
Me again, Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane. Good evening. I had the opportunity to sit in on one of the hearings, the last one, with the interview of the candidates, and I was quite impressed with some of them, most of them. I was quite impressed with our panel that was set up by our council, and I'm looking for, as a resident in the city of North Miami, I'm looking for an attorney to represent, or an attorney firm to represent the residents of this city. That's who our attorney should be representing. He answers to our council, or they answer to our council, but I believe the residents of this city is their first priority. And should there be a question that comes into play that the residents are secondhand, I think that's the time that attorney should step aside or make it known that they are not going to follow through with this promise to the residents of North Miami. I feel a firm would be a smart decision, because we would have an army of attorneys that, should there be any large discussion of an opinion, they would have their fellow attorneys to speak to and discuss it with. And we would always have, we would not have to farm out many of the things that we do have to today and have spent a lot of money as a citizen, as a city. So that's my humble opinion, and I hope that this board will make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to be heard on this item, on choosing our next attorney? Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Well, the moment has come. The public has spoken. I believe that we gave ample time if you wanted to be heard on this choice that we are about to make. And like I said, for months we've been going at this to see to it that the city get a good representation. But I must say, Ms. Montgomery, you hit it right on the nail. The salary of the city attorney or attorneys who are going to embark on this journey with us, the salary is paid by the people of the city of North Miami, by the business owners. It's your tax dollars that make it possible for us to hire a city attorney. Of course, when he or she gets to a position and doesn't know if there is any ambiguity as to how to choose or how to give advice, it should always err on the side of the people. and I totally agree with you on that. So, having said that, we let us proceed so we see what the future brings.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
She asked
You-
first.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank the Blue Ribbon panel who took a lot off our shoulders. We had 60-plus applicants, and we were left with the top 8 or 9. I think they did an excellent job. Last week, I interviewed 4 individuals and 4 firms, and I sat there and I was really impressed. So they did a good job, and there's a lot of applicants. But over the last few years, I see that we have spent an exorbitant amount of money for outside legal counsel. And not only have we spent dollars, I'm the money's person, but not only have we spent dollars, there have been so many issues that have come across since I've been sitting up here where we really haven't had someone who is knowledgeable in this area, in that area. The past couple years, we've spent close to $1 million in outside legal fees with regard to MOCA, Solomia, a lot of other issues. I'm an attorney. I'm a private practitioner. I know real estate. I know it pretty well, I think. But if you ask me anything about bankruptcy or probably municipal law or litigation, I'm going to send you to a specialist. I'm not going to begin to take on something I don't understand. And that's what our city attorney has to do. There's no way, we don't have general practitioners anymore. The world is so full of laws and regulations, and they just get stricter. And there's really nobody that I know who can say they're familiar with all the laws and do it well. And that is the reason why our attorney does have to go seek different opinions. Being a private practitioner has been great. I've had my own time, but when I have an issue, I have to start calling people. Do you know someone who does this area? Do you know somebody who I could talk to about this? And it's always been a disadvantage not being in a big firm, having 20 other lawyers, 30 other lawyers who have expertise in each area. And that's what I think a firm could bring to this city. We will have an attorney here who will be our main attorney. But we have an issue. We don't have to go start finding someone to give us a second opinion, to bounce off a question. We won't have to go out and retain somebody to give us an answer, to give us a little bit of an opinion, like we did in some previous matters. So that being said, I am really committed to hiring a firm, having an attorney, and having a full, as Ms. Montgomery said, a full army behind us. So I'm ready tonight. I'm going to make a motion. As I have said before, the firms were good. I'm happy with them. I think Greenspoon Martyr brings the most to the table, the most experience, the most municipal experience, the most years to us, and I'm going to make a motion for Greenspoon Martyr this evening.
Is it okay to word your motion? Motion to appoint Greenspoon and Martyr as the City of North Miami,
The city law firm for the city of North Miami,
the City of North Miami attorney? Or-
as legal counsel.
Okay.
Um,
Motion to appoint Greenspoon and Martyr as the City of North Miami Legal Counsel. That's a motion made by Councilwoman Keys.
I want to also make it clear that our deputy attorney, Roland Galdos, remain in the city, and our other staff will either remain, I don't know if this has to be part of the motion, but it's going to be understood that our existing legal staff will remain in the city. You can put that in there, that the existing legal staff will remain employed by the city, or in the alternative, can go with the firm that is, if the firm is hired, to be retained by the firm. But they are to remain as our counsel.
Motion to appoint Greenspoon and Martyr as a City of North Miami legal counsel, and existing employees shall remain.
Of council. Just of council.
But that would include only deputy, because he's the only. Okay, so the existing deputy city attorney shall remain as of council.
The deputy city attorney and the rest of the staff will remain employed by the city and/or the firm if hired.
So existing employees shall be employed by the city or by the law firm. So let me reread your motion so that I can have it clear on the record. The motion that is made by Councilwoman Keys is the motion to appoint Greenspoon and Martyr as the City of North Miami legal counsel, and existing employees shall be employed by the city or by the law firm.
I have a problem with that term. Shall be employed by the city or the law firm doesn't make any sense. We have to be specific as to how we want to proceed with this, because
That would go under negotiations later. My intention is that our staff remain with the city, that they're not gonna be fired.
no, the
They're not
reason
gonna
why I
be
say that
replaced.
is because I don't want the staff to get into a situation where it's gonna be a decision of the firm to decide whether to retain them or for them to be retained, remain as
We
our
can also
employees.
use the word may as opposed to shall, if that
Yeah.
helps.
Okay.
That gives them less.
It's my intention that we don't fire the existing staff if we take on a firm. That's my intention.
So do you want me to remove the language or keep it on and vote on it, and, because that's two different things.
You can remove it. I think it'll be understood.
So it would basically say, motion to appoint Greenspoon and Martyr as city attorney, as the City of North Miami legal counsel, and the existing deputy attorney shall be employed by the city?
Shall remain employed
By
with the city.
the-
with the
oh,
city,
But I'm
by
just
the
putting
city.
deputy attorney?
Yeah.
Or- okay, so that's the motion. So the motion to appoint Greenspoon and Martyr as the City of North Miami legal counsel and existing deputy city attorney shall be employed by the city. Okay, that's the motion. Do I have a second? Oh, I'm sorry, do you want to finish discussion, or you want me to get a second?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, do I have a second to approve Councilwoman Key's motion? That motion fails for
No,
lack.
I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion was made by Councilwoman Keys. That motion was seconded by Mayor Joseph. I'm gonna go ahead and do a roll call vote here. Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
No, any discussion?
Yeah, like,
Wait,
wait,
this
wait,
is-
wait,
I
wait,
know,
wait,
this
yeah.
No,
is-
you have to have
First-
discussion.
Okay, have discussions.
Yeah.
I might recognize
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Mayor. Well, first and foremost, I do want to thank Councilman Galvin for, I totally was in favor of the process, but after talking to the applicants, I was even more, I do want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I didn't even think about doing so, but I went in there meeting with several of the applicants with open-minded to see what, not being an attorney, I had specific questions. With what just happened, with the way the motion was made, that's one of the specific reasons why I do not want a firm. I state my position earlier. I have speak to several different cities, attending several different League of Cities event, who have firms who think the same way. So the fact that we do spend money outside, that firm will be billing us. It's not that they're gonna do it for us for free. They are gonna be charging us, so the idea that having a firm who has more attorneys, where we are saving more, it's quite the opposite, and I would caution and ask my colleague to talk to various cities who have firms. Now, by saying that, I do understand different folks spoke to different people, which is fine, but I think it would be very mindful if we allow members to even talk about the process before we go ahead and start nominating folks. But since there's already a motion on there, but I will definitely not be supporting a firm. the idea that our employees who are vested in the Florida retirement system, it's even a question. Budget already passed it. It's mind-boggling to me sitting up here, and I know I haven't been up here long, but I know there's folks who's been here for years. I was very enthused that we were going to hire someone to come in. As complex the city is, we need someone, not somebody every single day. We don't know who's in the office that we could call. God knows how many times I've texted and called Roland in the last few months, and he's been in this role. And I think the city, the citizen, first of all, the attorney does not represent the citizens. That's number one. So I do want to clear that. They cannot give the citizen opinion. They are here to represent us and city staff and different things that's their capacity. So I want someone not only who understands municipal law, but someone who have an experience. And with the resolution that just passed, we're going away from all this thing. I would definitely want to start a brand new city, as we are the city on the move, to get someone who does not have any connection, any political tie in Miami-Dade County. And that's why I'm here tonight, to make sure that we do keep that spirit in mind, since we are the city on the move. If we are going to hire an attorney, let's hire somebody that have no connection to none of us up here, who's going to represent the city well and who's going to represent us very well. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, thank you for the compliment and us having done the interview process. I think it's incredibly helpful. I think there were a lot of qualified candidates who didn't even make the final four. I was ready to throw one of those names in for consideration tonight, but since there's already a motion on the table, that's moot for right now. But I am glad that the council members were able to take the time to, hear out all of the different 9 or 10 finalists.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
And said early that the process have been followed, but from what I understand, the process recommend one person, one individual, and 3 firms. That's been, if we have to follow the process, that's where we need to look for the city attorney. Now, if we have to go outside of the process, like Vice Mayor Keys did, then I can understand that. But we cannot say we are following the process and have to bypass the recommendation of the committee, because the committee recommend one person and 3 firms. And secondly, in the motion of Vice Mayor Keys, she said, we're gonna hire the firm and the city will pay for the cost of the employees. That means it's gonna end up costing the city more money if we hire the firm and we have to keep staff. Because right now we have a staff, and the only money that we're gonna spend is $200,000 for someone to be inside. If in the event we need to hire an outside counsel, then we gotta go out there and find the best on the matter. But now if we hire a firm, we only can go inside of the firm, even if the firm doesn't have a qualified person in the matter. That's mean what will be in the best interest of the city is to hire someone to be in-house, and I think it's gonna cost the city less money. And if we have to choose Greenspoon Matters, that's mean we are not following the process, because the process recommend 4 people, 1 individual, and 3 firms. And me, like Councilman Alex Desulme said, I'd rather see someone inside than a firm. And if we have to follow the process, we have to choose someone from the recommendation. Or if we have to go outside, that means I understand anybody can come with any names, any person, and then we're gonna vote on it. And I think that's what it is. Like, I did interviews with 3 or 4 individuals, and I think the recommendation of the committee was the best recommendation. If it was me, I will go with the recommendation of the committee, hire someone in-house to do the job. Now, if we have to go outside of the process, Vice Mayor Keys went on the table Greenspoon Matters, and Councilman Galvin gonna bring someone from the outside, and maybe I'll bring someone from the outside, because if we decide not to follow the process.
No, I'm not
No,
saying. I don't
excuse me,
think
excuse me,
it's from the
excuse me. No, 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 no.
outside.
Wait. That's not the way it goes.
May I answer that?
That is not the way it goes.
May I
I
answer?
get to speak first.
Oh, excuse me.
Answer to Councilman Bien-Aimé. When you mention about the process not being followed, I think you fail to understand what the true process is. The process was continued when we, the council, voted to go back and bring back the additional firms or candidates or applicants who applied. That is part of the process. It was voted on this very dais. So we are not, let the record show that we are not outside of the process of choosing an attorney. That's what I want the record to show. And as far as the representation of the city attorney, yes, the city attorney does represent the people, the taxpayers of the city of North Miami. They do counsel us. I mean, they give us legal advice. But the legal advice that they do give us ultimately benefit the people of North Miami. And in basic algebra, it says it, Euclid theorem. 2 quantities equal to a third, they are equal between themselves. If they counsel me, and I represent the residents, so they do represent the residents. It's as simple as that. And the last thing that I want to say, again, the process is still being followed. We are in the process right now until such time that we vote on the city attorney tonight.
May I answer?
Councilman Galvin wanted to speak.
No, nothing to add.
Go ahead.
Just in response, the process is for a committee to get together, vet attorneys for us, so we do not have to spend our time interviewing 60 attorneys. Again, this committee is advisory only. They cannot demand that these are the 4 that we have to choose. They are advisory, and I think they gave us good advice. I'm not, but last week, last meeting, we decided that we would ourselves interview the top 8. So I don't believe, this is what we agreed on the last meeting, and this is what we've done. I don't think we're going out of the process. The attorneys that we interviewed all filed their applications. They went through the proper procedures. We did not go outside to anybody who was not already, who had not already applied and who was not in the top 10. So I don't believe that in any way we went outside the process. As far as budget, I think it's incorrect to say an attorney, a city attorney, will cost us $200,000. The salary is $200,000. The benefits of pension, insurance, bar dues, all of the benefit packages of a $200,000 employee attorney is an additional approximate, you can correct me, Mr. Manager, but about another $100,000. So the position of a city attorney will cost us $300,000, and then we also have budgeted, which is really low, $100,000 for outside legal counsel. I don't think we've spent $100,000 for legal counsel in years. So I've spoken to different firms, all of them, and they've said that they can keep within our budget. This is all gonna be negotiated. It's not my intention to go over budget, but I seriously think we can actually save some money over the past several years, because we no longer have to deal with sick days and pension, and, if we have a contract, if we have an individual, we're gonna have a contract, all of a sudden, we're gonna have a 20-week severance package like we've had in our contracts. Nobody's gonna sign something for less than 20 weeks. We don't have that issue with a firm. Firm can be month to month even. We don't like them, unless they want a contract. So I think we're gonna be saving money. I don't think we're gonna be, a city attorney is not a $200,000 ticket.
Can
Thank
I
you.
say something, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Well, clearly, I think we could see, well, it's not really a dilemma, but to clarify, yes, we are going outside the process. At the last meeting, we allowed the other 4 from what the committee had recommended to come, because the firm that's being recommended tonight was not part of the 4. So that is why we are even discussing that. So yes, to clear, we are clearly going outside of the process, which the chair of the committee came and present their recommendation to us. We decided, which we have the right as council members not to do, but it's not the process that we, as the body, did prior to this process. So let's get that clear on the record. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I say
Disagree.
something?
The record is not clear. Let the record show that we, the council members, we were ready to vote last meeting. We were ready to choose a city attorney. And you yourself just said, thank you to Scott Galvin for proposing to bring the other candidates in. Yeah, not to reopen, to continue the process. There is a big difference. We did not reopen any part. We continued the process. That's what the motion was made for. Okay?
Mr. Mayor, may I say
Thank you.
something? Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the city attorney. And in that situation where the mayor make a motion or second the motion, and can the mayor vote on the issue? Don't we have conflict of interests? And since, I don't know if he's still, since I know that Mr. Joe Geller was the mayor's attorney, can he vote?
If they have an existing relationship, I would say yes, but if it's.
If there would not have, well, there could not be an existing conflict. And I don't think there
This
is.
is
I don't
just a
think there's
below
any
the belt.
I'm just
representation.
asking.
This is just a below the belt blow, but that's okay. Mr. Geller represented me 3 years ago doing, when I was campaigning on my first election. So this is a moot, this is something that does not exist. I do not have a lawyer-client relationship with Mr. Geller.
Well, Joe represent many of us on here, but
No, that's a question that I want to
it's
make
only
sure
if it's
because
current. It would be a-
Okay.
I don't believe that there would be a conflict, a current conflict. And Mr. Geller would probably conflict himself out if there was one.
Okay, and another question, Mr. Mayor. And we're gonna hire a firm, meaning every council meeting, we may have a different lawyer. Is that correct?
That would be up to the firm who's hired.
To choose
Uh,
whether they want
I mean,
to be,
if I'm here to serve, I will sit in the absence of whoever the city attorney happens to be. as
No,
I've
in-
done in
yeah, in the
past.
absence, I'm talking about the
Yes, sir.
firm. If we hire a firm, meaning every council meeting, we're gonna have someone, anybody from a firm.
That's a possibility, and that's also a point of negotiating under the contract.
Because I know Mr. Joe Geller is a state rep. That's mean for 5-6 months he's gonna be in Tallahassee. That mean he won't be able to be sitting here for 5 months or whatever it is.
2 months.
2 months, whatever
you
it
say.
is. Yeah, but
And
if
let
we
the
have
record
special
sh-
session or
let
whatever
the
it
record
is,
show that we are not hiring Joe Geller for the position. We are hiring
a firm,
Vince
okay.
Marder.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's mean every council meeting, we can have a different attorney here.
That's up to the firm.
That's up to the firm
Up to
again.
the firm.
Appoint me to do the meeting, or for the firm to send somebody on behalf of, Mr. Geller, I would presume.
And every time we have a question,
But-
we may have a different answer. Or whoever sitting there as a lawyer may tell me, okay, I'm not aware of that, I'm gonna research and come back, and in 2 weeks, another person come.
That's, it's speculative for me to say, but it's a possibility.
I don't know if anybody did any research from what I heard or from what they told me. We will be the city, the only city with that size that's gonna hire a firm as our legal.
Well, we don't know if
We-
we're gonna
we-
hire you.
we
We
can
just-
Just an
continue-
example.
Yeah, but we can't continue, we cannot sit here and make a discussion about choosing an attorney on he
Yeah.
say or they say.
Yeah,
or
but
I
Mr.
heard.
Mayor, that's a discussion.
Yeah, but they say I heard. Come on,
But-
I can say they say I heard too. Does it mean it's true? They say I heard, and we are on record here. We are
Well-
here on television.
Maybe he
To-
needs to, you need to direct your question to the attorney. Are we the only city that would have a firm, meaning that in the top 5, in the top 7 in Dade County?
I don't
Don't
have an
know.
answer for that. I know
Okay.
that there are other firms
If
that
we are,
represent
then we will
cities,
make
but-
history.
I know
But-
Homestead has a firm,
No, they're not
Aventura
our-
has
they're not
a
our
firm,
size.
Doral, Miami Lakes.
Yes, but no, he was saying city our
That
side.
size,
But
that
that's
capacity.
fine.
Homestead?
That's
You know,
fine.
Miami has a, inside, city attorney, Coral Gables.
Homestead,
Homestead has a firm,
Firm.
Waisaroda.
what's the population of Aventura?
10,000.
Okay, and I
I
have
remember
a-
is-
my
is
last
like
question, Mr. Mayor.
35,000, 30-something thousand.
my last question, Mr. Mayor.
You mean attorney?
Oh, if you, Mr. Attorney, can you tell me what the charter said about hiring a city attorney?
It doesn't, the charter, doesn't, the charter does not prohibit, you hiring a law firm. And also the charter, when you construe the gender terms, his and hers, which is what the language is used in for the city attorney, you have to construe those gender personalized terms to include firm, partnerships, and corporations. So it doesn't exclude it, and based on the particular sections of the code, it seems to include firms.
Thank you. No more questions.
Any more questions or comments? Mr. Clerk?
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys. The motion was already read on the record. That motion was seconded by Mayor Smith Joseph. Now I'm gonna commence the roll call. Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes?
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
No?
Councilman Bieneme, how do you vote?
No?
Councilman Desmond, how do you vote?
No.
That motion fails 3-3.
Mr. Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Go ahead.
And since the motion fell and we were out of the process, and if we go back to the process and the recommendation and of the committee, or if we have to start the process again or bypass the committee and hire someone else, I don't know. And if you can discuss about that.
I know Councilman Galvin, you said you might have someone. Were they from the 10? Because I was
Yeah,
impressed by a
they're
lot of
from-
people.
But he's talking. You cannot stop him when he's talking and then talk to another councilman.
Mr. Mayor, he
Yeah,
was
but
done.
but the councilman has not finished his statement yet.
Are you
It-
finished, Councilman?
You can go ahead.
Thank you. That was, I'm done with my question. Go ahead.
I disagree with Councilman Bieneme. I think we are totally staying within the process if we choose from the final 8 or so that we interviewed.
Okay.
It would be if we reached out and grabbed,
Somebody else?
Joe Smith, who has not applied, who has not interviewed, who's just a last-minute entry. That's the only time I think that we'd be going outside of the process. So I think I'm comfortable with anybody from within the 8. you know, but not somebody who is from outside the agency.
I make a motion to hire the recommendation of the committee, which is Guylaine Theodore as the new city attorney for the city of North Miami. That's my motion.
I'll
What-
second that.
What is her name?
Whatever the recommendation,
What was the name you just
I
said?
think it's Guylaine Theodore.
Theodore.
She was the only
Theodore,
individual,
Theodore.
yeah.
In theater. I have a motion made by Councilman Bien-Aimé to appoint Guylaine Theodore as the city of North Miami attorney. And that motion was seconded by Councilman Desume. Mayor, may I commence with roll call vote?
No, discussion, please.
Discussion. Anyone?
Yes, yes, Mr. Mayor. I interviewed Ms. Theodore. First of all, I was impressed because the committee, I've heard so many wonderful things and looking at the resume and not having a legal background. This is someone, I believe she lives in Tampa. I heard the committee was extremely impressed by her legal background. She was an assistant county attorney in Tampa. She currently lives in Tampa. And the first conversation I had with her over the phone, I said, "Are you looking forward to be a resident of city of North Miami if you get hired?" She said, "Yes." And she said, "Definitely, I would not do anything otherwise." And that kind of touched my interest. And I asked her, "Do you know anyone from this community?" She went on. She told me she didn't. She heard that we are a very political body, but she just decided to apply upon for good faith. And in the last few weeks, I think she has shown such an elegant about the process. Somebody you don't know, she really calls elected officials or send her resume and do what she needed to do in the process. And by not knowing that person from elsewhere, I think if we are looking for someone to start clean, she might be. There's others individual on the list I was very, very impressed with, but she's definitely one that stood out. So that's why I'll definitely would recommend my colleague, if they did talk to her, to consider her. Thank you.